A learning organisation is an environment in which education takes place.
And education can be formal as well as informal. And so, broadly speaking, any environment where there is the opportunity or the possibility of learning taking place is a learning organisation.
In 1990, Peter Senge wrote a seminal book called The Fifth Discipline, and it was about the art and practice of the learning organisation. And for Senge, a learning organisation was more than just a place where learning took place. It was more than a place where people were encouraged to learn. The learning was central to the ethos of the organisation. And he argued that when that happens, it enables the organisation to adapt and develop and to transform itself. So this was actually based on a number of studies of successful businesses. He contrasted the old-fashioned top-down hierarchical approach to management with a different approach, which was a rather flatter management structure in which individuals within an organisation were empowered to make a difference to their organisation. They were encouraged to share a common goal and a common value. So part of what he identified was the necessity not to see an organisation in a machinery model with inputs and outputs and command and control. Instead, he saw it as a much more human activity. And for him, one of the key things tapping into humanity was about our values. What do we believe in? Why do we come to work? If we're interested in learning, why are we interested in learning? So it's actually learning about learning that was part of being a learning organisation.
So for me, learning organisations are environments that are capable of offering both structured and unstructured learning, where there is a conscious as well as unconscious approach to developing people, and where the opportunity emerges to use the contacts that one has with patients for developing staff, for developing people, but also developing oneself. So to me, those are the qualities which engender learning. They include safety, opportunity, they include skill, the kind of skill that educators use to help others develop, the infrastructure, so having technology like videos, having space to actually reflect upon one's work and therefore the opportunity to learn.
Many people have said that it is impossible to create a learning organisation within a public sector organisation in which there is typically a very heavy top-down command and control culture, and particularly in a primary care setting which is under enormous stress at the present time. How can anyone afford the time to do this?
One doesn't become a learning organisation, one is a learning organisation. It depends on the quality of that learning that I think is what you're alluding to. And yes, in terms of improving the quality of the learning that takes place in an organisation, it does take time. And there are a number of challenges along the way. So there are obvious ones like developing educational expertise, and then there are less obvious ones like developing the infrastructure. So you need to have, for example, the right environment for learning. You've got to have your team behind you in developing learning opportunities. You need to have the kinds of processes that allow for better quality education to take place. So there's a whole variety of different steps along the way to improving one's learning as an organisation.
There are examples where practices have undergone a subtle shift in their approach to education, to learning, and to making explicit the values within the various members of the team that they hold dear. They've engaged in team learning and team development. They've concentrated on who they are as a learning organisation.
It has been my experience that GP surgeries that train actually offer better patient care. Both clinical outcomes in relation, for example, in QOF, Quality and Outcomes Framework, demonstrate that actually scores are better in training practices compared to non-training practices. And if you look at patient satisfaction outcomes as well, training practices, patients registered with training practices have better patient satisfaction scores compared to non-training practices.
Some people hope for major transformations, and often those happen. But even a small, subtle shift can help to change the direction and the feel of a practice. When you visit different primary care organisations, you very quickly get a sense of what the ethos is. And that ethos really makes a difference to everyone in the organisation. It makes a difference to teamwork, it makes a difference to the patient experience, and it's not hard to do. It means some shared learning. It means some real belief. Let's try team learning. And it means just pausing and saying, what do we believe in? What are we hoping to achieve? Why do we come to work? A lot of people are a little bit cynical about mission statements, but actually having those values made explicit in some way is a powerful first step to becoming a learning organisation.
And it is the energy, the willingness, and the opportunity to carry on questioning one's own practice as an educational establishment that is a key driver to maintaining that sort of approach to education. So it is about willingness to look at oneself under a sort of self-critical microscope that actually allows an organisation to continue to sustain itself.
Here are some questions that are intended to get you thinking about this subject in greater depth. How useful do you find the concept of a learning organisation? What are the barriers to team learning in primary care, and how can they be overcome? To help answer these questions, there's a related e-learning module on interprofessional education. Go to faculty.londondeanery.ac.uk/e-learning and select the topic from the left-hand panel. If you're a student on our Postgraduate Certificate course, you'll find references and suggestions for additional reading within the online resource folder.